Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of Education Unfiltered with your boy Derrell Meyers and Jacob Ureña, man. And we have two very, very special, very eloquent, very educated, and just all around lovely guests tonight. Everybody, please join me in welcoming Miss Jayna Smith and Alyssa Jones. In the building. In the building. Thank you, y'all, for being here tonight.
Yes.
Well, today. Of course, and of course, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed and got everything you wanted.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. I know.
I did get the
Okay, all right. Well, you got something free.
I've inoculated.
Exactly. So, we're all here, man, but thank you so much for being here today. We're here to talk about how, we shift from student to teacher and how that's been. And get me right if I'm wrong, but you are teaching fellows, right?
Yes, we were teaching fellows.
Okay, talk to us about that.
Both of you are teaching fellows.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. And what year was that? Go ahead, tell us.
So
Hold on. Yeah, feel free to switch the mics. I want the people to hear this.
So I have the privilege and honor of being from the same cohort as Jayna.
Wow.
We were
What?
both teaching fellows in 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we both attended Hunter College.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So same courses, all that kind of stuff. So when we were going through it in Learning Lab, we were going through it together.
So, Alyssa, what was your subject area assignment?
So we're both special ed 7 to 12.
Okay. Both special ed, 7 to 12. Oh my goodness.
Wait,
man.
and did you both also start working in TRQ at the same time?
You were before me, but maybe like a year before.
Oh, okay.
Back to back?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We were both working in TRQ at the same time, but two different programs. So, but we did work for Teaching Fellows as well prior to that.
Wow.
So like seasonally, we were both lead instructors for the program for a few years. And then I joined right before COVID to TRQ full time.
Okay.
So I joined in 2018.
Okay.
And I was working with the Teaching Fellows on the curriculum.
Yeah.
And then
So-
Jayna was working on a different like extended certification program.
And
2019, I
And
joined.
Jayna,
Yes.
when did you start teaching?
So we
Go ahead,
both
you can get a little closer, you
entered.
good.
We both entered the classroom in September of 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our 12th or 13th year. Yeah.
Basically.
It's been a minute.
Basically.
It's
Wow.
been a
That's crazy.
minute.
That's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
It's been a
12 or
minute,
13.
yeah.
And so now you're out of the classrooms, but not
Yes.
really, right? Because we'll tell the people a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So we both are teacher training managers.
Okay.
And so what this means for me is that I am leading the training of the staff that coach and develop our New York City teaching fellows.
Wow.
So what that includes is ensuring that the staff are adequately trained on how to engage in coaching and feedback sessions for the fellows, ensuring that the teaching academies that our fellows are learning how to be teachers in are running appropriately, are running smoothly. And that work kind of like aligns with Alyssa's work because her work stream includes training the lead instructor. So that's another member of the team that trains and develops the teaching fellows. So yeah, you want to talk about
Yeah.
I want to brag on Jayna just a little bit.
Come on.
Okay, let's put some scale into what we're doing, right?
Please.
Because let's say we have a teaching fellows program, right, that requires us to have maybe 60 summer schools that we're working in.
Right.
That means in Jayna's staff training, because that's what she's responsible for, she's training 60 teaching academy directors, 60 field effective managers. Who else? Maybe 4 to 5 coaches per school.
Wow.
So maybe
that's like
300
300?
coaches,
Yeah. Wow.
right?
It was 555.
Exactly.
555.
Come on, get it right.
I don't want Jayna to be humble.
Men lie,
Okay.
women lie, but numbers don't.
None but still. She's like, I just trained a couple
Right.
people.
Exactly. She's doing big
couple.
work out here.
Yeah, we gotta drop that bomb on. We gotta drop that horn off. Productivity.
Yes, but also talk about the work that you do with lead instructors
Come
and the
on.
curriculum, right? Like understanding that you are responsible for the syllabus, for the content that these new teachers are teaching, are learning, and then taking into their classrooms, right? So you are responsible for the quality of these teachers and ensuring that they know how to teach. So that's a big deal on your
that's-
part. Like, shout out
Yeah,
to you.
shout out to you, number one. Let's get up for that. Also,
Big
that's
deal.
that's
No,
a
we
crazy.
don't have anybody regular on this podcast. Nobody regular.
Everybody here does something big. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes.
That's kind of crazy too. So for you, what is that like going from as someone who used to be a student and then became a teacher and was in the classroom following the curriculum and doing your thing to now the person that makes the curriculum? That's like how does that feel? Kind of being on the opposite side of the totem pole that you were once starting off in.
Wow. I mean, it's a big question to consider, and something that I really appreciate about working in the system the way that I have is that I get to have these sort of like full circle moments where I trained in the program, became a teacher in the program, got to work with colleagues in the program for over 10 years. And have the impact that we have in the work streams that we're responsible for, like the curriculum of the fellows or the training of the staff. So I'm appreciative of being in that space, and I don't want to take for granted what it means to have that sort of influence and almost sort of be like, like the man, quote unquote, like being a small part of a large system. You go into spaces and you represent New York City public schools.
In a real way,
And what does that mean if you are not even a teacher yet, right? But you're in a teacher training program, and what it means to sort of represent the system. So I try to have that awareness when I'm entering spaces. But I mean, when I was a student, when I was just a regular K through 12 student, I never thought I would be a teacher.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's stick to that.
Yeah.
Because we want to hear about like the difference between how it was when you were learning versus how it is now as an educator. Because I figure if you're teaching people how to teach and you're teaching people how to learn and all of these different things, then you must have a unique perspective of yourself and self-awareness to really understand how to connect with these students, let alone teach somebody else how to connect with these students. So I want to dial it back a couple years. I know we all pretty much getting up there in age, maybe aside from Jacob.
I'm gonna just stay quiet here.
I'm sorry. I guess that squeaky noise I heard earlier was just my niece. My fault. But if you could dial it back to when they first started, and by they I mean these little rugrats that you were teaching, when they first started calling you Miss, right? And like, did it dawn on you then? Yo, I'm really a teacher now. And if so, and you both of you, I want to answer this. How did it affect you when that moment finally dawned? Like, okay, they're leaning on me.
So,
As a former student.
Yeah, like I entered the classroom pretty young. I think I was maybe 22. And I was teaching seniors at the time. So what's that age difference? Like 4
years.
18,
Yeah,
22.
just college.
Right, that's crazy. And so, I'd be in class and like, Miss, and I'm looking around. I'm like, yeah, where's she at? Miss. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's me. Hold on, I'm coming right now, right? So I think whenever that happened, it hit me that I am carrying a heavy responsibility, right?
Absolutely,
Especially
for sure.
as somebody who went to a public school and understands the weight that comes with that, right? I understand and I experience firsthand the inequities and the bias that exist in these, in these types of systems. And knowing that now I am responsible, right, for addressing that, so to speak, and making sure that my students are adequately prepared and doing the best I can to fight that, that felt very heavy, right? But at the same time, it was like, I'm gonna do this, right? Like I owe this, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make sure that they do not experience like some of the things that I experienced when I left out of my K through 12 experience, right? Like I was not prepared for college. Yeah, like we were reading 100 pages per night and I was like, what is this?
Yep.
Right, so it came with, that Miss title came with like a huge responsibility, right? And also knowing like I know how this story could go.
Right.
So having to carry that weight like felt incredibly, personal. Like I said, the work for me, knowing that I'm that Miss in the room was personal. It wasn't just theoretical.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you have that perspective as well, because I feel like it's a huge generational difference, how we were as students versus how students are now, especially considering, like you said, they were 18 and you're 22. Like all the way from grade school to high school, for me, all of my teachers look like Tweety Bird's grandmother.
Absolutely. I was the same way.
Yes.
Like all of that.
They
all
all
of that.
they all look like Tweety Bird's grandmother, and they didn't look like me. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like all of my teachers look like, okay, you know, you marched on Selma, and I respect you for that. Like, but they definitely didn't have Instagram or Facebook. But Alyssa, I want you to have a chance to answer. Like, how was it when they first called you Miss? Like, you are Miss.
You're in
Miss
charge.
Lady.
You in charge of these kids.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, wow.
Pull it a little closer.
Sure. Better? Okay. So I didn't grow up in New York.
Okay.
And I went to Catholic school my entire life. So even calling a teacher Miss would just have been tolerated.
And the Catholic school where? What state?
New Jersey.
In Jersey. Okay.
Still a Yankees fan though. Just pointed it out.
Check the
Don't
beret.
ever forget that.
Shout
Come
out
on.
Check the
Tri-State.
beret.
Some people like to win. You know what I mean? But go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, I mean, culturally speaking, I think something that I had to learn how to become, honestly, which is sort of like the most authentic version of myself as possible, right? Because I might,
And you had to learn how to become that.
yes, it really is a process, right? Because, you know, I started teaching in Harlem and then I transitioned to another school in the Bronx. So those were the areas where I was teaching. And I might have walked into spaces looking like I came from that area, but I didn't, right? And if I tried to like perpetrate like I was,
Then
then
we
like
get
what
to-
kind of biases am I tapping in, you know, to make it look like I was from where I wasn't? And so I really had to like maybe lean into a corniness, right?
Yeah.
Or something, you know, that I had that the students might point out, because the students will tell you about yourself very quickly.
Very
Quickly. You will never know yourself more than when you're being judged by 37th graders.
But this is the worst
With no
place.
filters.
with no filter.
This is the worst place
Okay.
to perpetrate. We're gonna see right through
you
that
cannot.
immediately.
They are the filtration like system you need, right, to get to your most like
Absolutely.
was like concentrated self.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think. Like I remember once, like my hair was just not looking right, and the one student was like, "Miss, I'm going to tell you where to go."
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm not lying. If you came into my classroom with your hair looking crazy, I had long hair in high school. I would have been in there like, yeah, I don't know if you saw, but
Right.
Miss Alyssa, yeah,
But
I don't know.
at least I knew that I had love in the classroom,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it could
yeah.
have gone a very different direction.
100%. And I think that student knew that for you. It's like
Yes.
before they get on
Yes.
her, I'm gonna show her we're not all on that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So, but I even say that to say, like, even in our training program now, we're getting people from all over the country, including people who grew up in New York City schools. And whether you're from here or you're not from here, you don't have to be something you're not in order to teach our students.
Right.
Perfect.
And you also have to unpack what you might think these students need in order for them to get to the next level, right? We're not necessarily here to save them, right? But we're here to guide them. And we are sort of the examples of what it means to, you know, be strong in your character, right? And
Yeah.
try your best in challenging circumstances. And it might not work out. But what do you do to, you know, to get that grade or move on to the next level or pass that test or whatever it is?
And I love that because for you guys, at least even from what you're saying, it seems like there's a lot of calling back to your studentness. You know what I mean? Like calling back to how you were brought up in schools and everything, and you use that to right fit how you want to cater to these new young students. Now, and you touched base on how it's awkward. Right, like you're unpacking things. You're learning how to show up as your authentic self. It could be awkward understanding that you are Miss now. You know what I mean? You're not just Jayna. You're not just Alyssa. Like somebody's calling you Miss, and with that Miss comes you're authoritative. You know, you have the answer that and that's a lot of pressure, man. Like
I think even beyond that though comes with just the power of like knowing that the student's futures for this whole year, it's in my hands.
Yeah.
And every year from K to 12 is very important, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of segues too to our, the next question that we wanted to pose to you, especially because hearing from both your stories, obviously you have two different experiences in terms of the schooling that you went to. Because you, correct me if I'm wrong, New York City public schools, K through 12, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then Alyssa, you Catholic school, Jersey. Perfect. So I guess kind of what I know I'm curious about is kind of like what, and I would love to hear both of you answer separately, of course, but kind of what was it like pulling from what you experienced in your K through 12 experience and like going through that, and then becoming a teacher and seeing like kind of just like Derrell said, integrating those properties into your teaching skills, you know? Because someone like you, obviously you may have experienced a little more of what it's like to kind of be in such a big class and a big, you know, population and not get the exact specific, you know, like close-knit care. Whereas for you in Catholic school in New Jersey, it may have been a fully different experience, but you both taught the same demographic students.
sure.
You know, so how does that come into play when you're really trying to be a influential force in these students' lives and not just, you know, another check in the list and go on to next year?
Because kids do remember their favorite teacher.
I remember my first grade teacher, like if she's my mom, and she got pregnant halfway through the year, and I only had her for half a year, but I just remember the like dedication to like, you're gonna learn how to read to this grade level because you're not getting held back. I'm not gonna let you get held back. So like, let's do this. And then like, you know, I started first grade academically behind because my like reading wasn't there. By the time I finished elementary school, I was considered, you know, gifted. So it's like that teacher stuck with me, and I had her for half the year when I was 5. And I'm like, Miss Yvonne. Miss Yvonne, yeah, Miss Yvonne. Shout out Miss Yvonne. If you're watching this somehow, shout out Miss Yvonne. Please find me, find my email.
Shout out Yvonne.
No, yeah, Miss Yvonne. She was amazing. She was a nice Caribbean lady. I'll never forget. She was so
Reminded me
sweet.
of one of my favorite Mad TV sketches. Said, that's a French name, Yvonne, my little croissant. Got your number. Yeah, okay. I'm
Sorry.
I'm trying to keep us focused, man. I be slipping. I was that student. But yeah, I guess your question was how did being raised in New
What
York
was it like? Yeah. Well, how did your upbringing in your school system kind of impact you as a teacher?
Yeah, because those are going to be two very different answers, I would imagine.
Definitely.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I grew up in the Bronx. I went to public schools my entire life. And for me, I had some good experiences and I had some not so good experiences, right? Especially when it came to teachers. So similar to your experience, a lot of my teachers did not look like me. I did not see myself reflected in a lot of the things that we did in the classroom. So a lot of times I found myself disengaged. I held on to those experiences, right? But I also held on more tightly to the experiences where I had teachers who did look like me, right? I had teachers who did put in the work to make sure that what we were learning, I saw myself reflected in. So I was engaged in a different way. And I remember that. And one thing that I think about as I, navigated being a classroom teacher, and now as I navigate training teacher coaches to coach teachers, right? I think about be who you needed when you were younger.
Ooh,
right?
wow.
And so that leads my work.
Wow.
So I know, right, I, as a public school student, needed to be affirmed. I needed to be welcomed. I needed to be seen, right? A lot of times I was that student that sat in the back because I could sit in the back. Nobody was calling me to the front, right? And so knowing that our students need that. They need to be seen. They need to be welcomed. They need to be affirmed. They need to be challenged. And they need to know that as this person, as your teacher, I have these high expectations of you and you can do this work, right? So pulling from those experiences, right? Having some of that, but mostly not having that in my experience really shapes who I was or who I am as a teacher and now as a teacher coach.
I love that you made a choice, right? Because there's people who have great things that they need, and then they're like, because I had this, I want to definitely make sure that the next generation have it. And then there's people who didn't have what they need, and then they can say the same thing, or they could say, well, I didn't have it and I turned out all right, so you're gonna be straight.
Exactly.
But you've used the lack of to motivate you to make sure somebody else doesn't have that same lack.
Yes.
And you've used that as a kind of reference point to your empathy, to your self-awareness, and how you gauge your relationships with these students.
Absolutely, right? Because when I was in front of that classroom and I looked at my students, a lot of them looked like me. So that's why I said the work is personal. It's not just theory, right? It's personal because, again, when I look at these students, I see myself. Some of these students grew up on the same block that I grew up, or they came from where I came from. And not to say, we share the same story, but we have similar stories. And I want to ensure, like I said, that these students have what they need, and I wanted to be who I needed when I was younger.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to piggyback off that, before we get to Melissa as well, I just want to hear you describe it. What is that feeling like, knowing that you're in the classroom, being that black teacher that you didn't get as a student, or if you did get it, was so rare that you cherished it like it was gold? How does that feel, knowing for these young black students, I'm that first black teacher. I could be that first black teacher, that only black teacher for some of them.
Yeah. It's extremely powerful. It's powerful. It's emotional, right? And that's why I said I take the work seriously, right? Like in my classroom, students are going to learn. Everyone's going to feel seen. Everyone's going to feel valued, because without that, right, like it's hard for students to learn. And now, like I said, as somebody who now trains teacher coaches on how to train teachers, right? I know that I bring a little bit of that into that work as well, right? So a little bit of Miss Smith is instilled in all of these teachers, and I could sleep at night because of that.
Absolutely.
I love that. I'm like, if I could, like develop a bunch of little Miss Smiths, I'm good.
There's power in having teachers embody the representation of the student body, and I love that, because you gave a benefit from the student perspective, but also educator, you benefit from it too, and thank you. Yeah.
I would also like to benefit from Miss Smith's tutelage.
You know what I'm saying? Put me on. Don't gatekeep.
Let me know when the next professional development is.
Absolutely.
All right, perfect.
Now, Jersey.
Am I
Come on,
representing
Soprano.
Jersey right
Talk to me
now?
about it. What's going
Soprano.
on? What's going on?
I mean, I would say there's only one to memory. There's only one Black teacher that I had in my K-12 experience.
Wow.
Shout out to Dr. Foster, rest in peace. He
Dr.
was
Foster.
my
Dr. Foster.
religion teacher in high school. He was the
Okay.
smartest, sweetest man you would ever meet.
Wow.
So I always have a lot of respect and love for Dr. Foster. But not only did I not see myself reflected in the teachers that I had in my K-12 experience, but I was often the only Black person in my grade in my K-12 experience. And my high
You
school
were the only Black person in your grade?
for K-8, yes.
Wow.
Once I was in high school,
Me
but
too.
I also went to a small high school, so it was slightly more diverse. It wasn't like I was the only Black girl in my whole grade, but
it was like
there
five-
was
it
a
was like
small,
five of them.
right? It was like a strong handful of us.
When you walked in the room, you looked for the other four.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes they weren't there.
Right.
You know?
All right. Lonesome Governor.
Exactly. So I think about what I was taught in my K-12 experience and whether or not even the materials, right, that I was reading had, anything to do with my experience, or even the isolation that the one Black kid would feel once the slavery unit, came up in the class.
Black History Month, we were just talking about it.
We were
Yes,
just talking about that
right?
before the cameras were rolling. Right.
Or your teachers would ask you, where were your parents during the civil rights movement? And I would be like, I don't know, I'm 7. So, that's a great question I'll ask when I get home.
I mean, you're saying that a couple times. Why didn't you ask it?
Right.
That hits close to home, because I used to just ask me that, and I'm like, my family was in a different island, right? Like, we weren't even here yet. Like, we were in Dominican Republic. I don't
Right.
know where they were
Yeah.
doing. Like,
Or even, when they were marching on Selma, my mom was probably at home watching it on TV because she was a child.
Like,
Yeah.
You know?
your mother.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
Like most
exactly. It's not all that different. So,
Oh, that's powerful, man.
So even as a teacher, right? And I'm teaching what might be considered, like canon, like literature canon. I have to teach them The Crucible, or I have to teach them The Great Gatsby. That's what making something, culturally responsive is, because it's not like I'm going to ignore that, The Great Gatsby is culturally significant, but where's your access point to this story? If The Great Gatsby is ultimately about a man trying to come up and get the woman that he loves, who can't relate to that?
yep.
So I think, I feel like there are a lot of buzzwords in education right now. Like, you got to make things social, emotional learning, and you got to
Yeah.
make things culturally responsive.
Yeah.
And all of that's true, yes, right? But you don't take away the rigor because you're trying to play to the politics. And I think that's something that I not only try to do in the classroom, but I also try to do in our teacher training programs, right? Like, I can't remember which, but someone brought up, like what it means to be an authority figure
Yeah.
for the first time,
Yeah.
right? And so many teachers are afraid of that. Like when you're telling a student that they need to be quiet because you're doing whatever direct instruction, it can be like, oh, can we not do that right now?
You get a little bit of imposter syndrome,
Yeah,
right? 'Cause
exactly.
You still feel like a student.
People are very concerned about, like being the kids' friends. And there's a component to that
I
relationship.
love that
for
because I was
sure.
going to ask about how you toe the line of being that cool teacher and setting boundaries.
Right.
You know.
Students know who is the cool teacher that they don't have to pay any attention to, and who's the cool teacher they're actually going to learn from.
Yes. 100%.
Students know the difference. And as a teacher, you don't want to be one of those because they might like, having lunch with you. But when you're actually trying to teach the lesson that you might have spent an hour and a half trying to write, but it's not going the way you planned because you don't have any classroom management, you can be the great Gatsby of lesson plans.
Yeah.
But if you can't teach it,
Yeah.
then what's the point?
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Your relationship is to yield results academically. So, there's a little bit of a power struggle there. There's a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's tough trying to find what it means to be an authority figure that's authentic to you.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because even being an authority figure as a teacher is different than being an authority figure as a policeman or being an authority figure as, a doctor, in other realms. Because you don't have to see a policeman every day. You don't have to see your doctor every day. I'm there with you every day.
And
in some classroom
we have to
settings
learn
all
from you.
day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to have the relationship with you where you can stand being with me every day. Right. And then learn from me every day. And then hopefully I can prepare you for the next person who's going to do that for you. So it's a lot to learn how to do that. And you might not get that your first year, to be totally transparent.
Of course not. It's hard.
That's a career path.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how you know it's real because this is coming from a teaching fellow. They have the most support
Which is the
ever.
most training, support, rigorous, intense help you can get.
Yeah, but there is still a level of like you gonna have to figure it out yourself. Like we
Right.
can't hand walk you through this entire through your whole career.
Right. And even as someone who's writing the curriculum, that's hopefully, helping you do that reflection process so you can figure that out. But, no book is really going to tell you that. No, scholarly research is going to tell you who you are.
And I'm gonna say this: like I've been in school a lot of my life, and no one has ever broke down The Great Gatsby as a man in love just trying to get it. You know what I'm saying?
Me neither.
I was like,
It is always it is about a man overcoming his traumas from his childhood and the West Egg and the East Egg, and I don't even like eggs. I'm just like I don't even. And then I just remember I put the movie on. I put the movie on, and every chapter matter of fact, let me not tell students what to do. Never mind. I'm like,
But you know what's funny though, because we talk about being present, using that experience in the past. But like, let's talk about like how things are different in the classroom now versus when we were coming up, right?
especially the distractions.
Dude, we have they have cell phones, they have iPads. When we were in school, like we had that, but we were like the first to really do that for real.
We had it, but each text cost 25 cents, so I wasn't texting in middle class.
Exactly, exactly. Like after 5, if we both got Sprint, then that's a different story. You know what I'm saying? But otherwise, we got prepaid phones. But now you have cell phones, you have all these things, and you even have we live in a Chat GPT world, right?
Yep.
And so
Autocorrect, all that.
Yeah,
you don't have to spell anymore.
But see, when we were coming up, like autocorrect was as far as we could get to Chat GPT. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, okay, all right, I got to spell restaurant. I'm gonna just put whatever, and I'm just.
Oh,
I know it's like there's something.
No, but keep in mind though, we didn't have autocorrect. We just had the red line. It's wrong. I don't know why it's wrong, but it's wrong.
You
It's
had to
wrong.
have the wherewithal to know to go to edit and ABC. You know what I mean? And typically, most of us didn't learn that until we failed a test, and the teacher was like, "Yo, next time, do this." You know?
Yeah.
But like, so how do you navigate the differences in tech and TikTok and Chat GPT as somebody who didn't really have as much access when you were a student? Like, how do you relate to that? How do you deal with that as an educator?
I think that's multi-layered, right? I think like when I went to school, I think I grew up on the cusp of technology development. I grew up on the cusp of you respect your elders because they're your elders, and respect is earned. This generation today leans fully into that second one, right? Respect is earned.
Yep.
So when thinking about like how to bridge that gap or how to, be responsive to this generation of students, I I think I needed to be very clear about how I showed up, first of all, in the classroom. Like, I needed to show up as myself authentically. And what does that mean? That means being human. That means admitting to mistakes when I made mistakes. That meant following through. That meant saying what I said I was going to do, whether I was going to call a parent and inform them or collaborate with the parent, or I was going to bring in candy, whatever it is, right? But just making sure that I did what I said I was going to do. I built relationships with students based on our commonalities, our differences, right? And I think that is really what helps bridge the gap, is when you just show up as yourself authentically, right? I think when it comes to tech, you have to adapt. So what are the ways in which we can incorporate all of these things, right? So lesson plans now look a lot differently. So when we do like a large summative assessment, now we're giving students choices, right? Like, you can make a TikTok about it. You can make an Instagram page about it, right? Like, really trying to find ways to integrate like what is relevant, what students are into, and use that in a way to push instruction. A lot of our students are really big into podcasts and blogging and vlogging. And it's like, well, if you can demonstrate to me that you are able to understand this skill, or you have mastered this lesson through any type of technological forum, go for it.
That's amazing. No,
Right? Like, we're not at this point, like, we're not sitting down and just like forcing students, you need to write this essay.
For what?
There's so many other ways you can do this, right? Like, do a podcast, right? Again, right? So I think two different avenues, right? Building those relationships to understand students, and then using that to be able to reach students instructionally and really kind of just like meet them where they are in terms of like what's happening today, right? Technology, social media, all those things. So I think that is a way that I was able to kind of like integrate and figure out how am I able to like reach this generation of students, because it looks totally different.
And I just want to add on too, because the way you said this, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just like not informed on how to teach, but that's like so genius as well, because I also think it's like a double way of like adapting, because you're adapting to not only communicate with these students in a way that hits them.
Yes.
Because if I'm going to tell you to write an essay, you're going to go on ChatGPT, you didn't learn anything, you didn't learn how to write, and there's no passion. But doing like the podcast, the vlogs, whatever, not only is their interest spiked, their attention's there.
Yeah.
Number one, they're going to go the extra mile because their favorite celebrity does this. So now they want to be as good as them. But number three, if we think about it down to what school is for preparing kids for the future, you no longer need to know how to structure a perfect essay. You can just ask the internet, how do I structure my essay? And I'll write the words in there and you'll edit it for me.
Yeah.
What you can do for your future, and what our skills that the job market is now seeing for these kids when they become professionals, are social media marketing, video making, vlogging, podcasting, all those things, you know? So in a way, you're adapting to get their attention, but it's also a matter of adapting to teach them what they're gonna need when they actually hit the workforce. You know, for us, we had to know how to write by hand. That was expected in the workforce. For them, that's not gonna be a thing anymore. So.
And it's also like what you're saying is very relevant too, because, you know, I made the joke about them being, you know, teachers when we were coming up, being older and everything, but, you know, you are a younger generation of teachers. You know, you part of that, you embody that, and a lot of you do. I mean, even in your style and everything, you know, like we are that. So, and I think that that's helpful in an ever-changing technological world, because you have that youth aspect. It's easier for you to adapt, as opposed to somebody who, you know, maybe started teaching in the 40s and now it's, you know, the 2000s, and now we have gateway computers, and it's going to be a bigger paradigm shift for them, as opposed to somebody who was kind of raised on that, and now we're dealing with ChatGPT. So I think that's critically important when it comes to just being malleable as a teacher. Now, I do want to... Yeah, of course.
I want to say quickly before I pass it to you, though, right? Like, I also want to say it's also important to teach students how to use these resources. So it's like, we can't go into classrooms and say, like, do not ever use ChatGPT. Yeah. But more so, like, how are you using ChatGPT? So again, like, teaching students how to really use these new resources and these new developments, like, to their benefit. So it's like, you're not just throwing this in, write this for me, but like, you're trying to figure out, how can this enhance? How can this supplement, right? And not how can this replace you and deep thinking and critical thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah? How can this help me structure this the way I want to do it? And then I'll do it.
And let me not internalize my trauma and take it out on these kids. Go ahead, listen.
This is also making me think about what it means to, like, be a part of, like, developmentally very significant period in students' lives. You know, I was a middle school teacher that transitioned into high school, and there's not going to be anyone more emotional about a very small thing than a 7th grader, but it's very big to them. And I say that to say is that as a teacher, we cannot ignore the capacity that technology and social media takes in a student's life.
We can't.
And, so much of their identity goes beyond the classroom, and so much of it exists in their phone. And there could be entire undercurrents of classroom dynamics and classroom drama going on underneath your nose that you have no idea about because something popped off on the phone at some point the day before or during lunch, whatever it is.
Now the mood is different and you trying to figure out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to talk about The Green Light and The Great Gatsby.
Not the green light. You traumatizing me right now. I'm like, the green light means
You're going to be a Great Gatsby scholar by the end of this, okay?
basically.
Oh, man. That is hilarious.
But I think it's important for teachers to not minimize the fact that their personal identity, their social identity, is really tied to the technology that they're using on a day-to-day basis.
I love that point you're making because if we're talking about generational gaps, this is me personally feeling like teachers did not do that for me, especially given that they were older. It was always like if it was something new, it was greeted with impatience. If they didn't get it, then it was deemed as useless. And then it wasn't.
Back in my day.
Yeah, exactly. Back in my day. Guess what? Guess what? We in my day.
And also,
You know what I'm saying?
also call the truth too. Some of it, I feel like when I was in school, it was laced with a little bit of prejudice as well. You know what I'm saying? Like things like I'm writing. I have my paper tilted crooked while I'm writing, and I remember I had this one teacher that sent her off. Like she made it a point every day, and I don't know why this was, but I remember like me and my 2 friends, the only 3 brown boys in the class. I just remember like the 3 of us. That's how we wrote. I don't know. Maybe we went to the same like pre-K and we learned that. I don't know. And I just remember every day that was like World War III, and it's like there's no need to go this hard over the term paper. Like that's not okay. In the 30s, maybe they did that and like hit you guys for that. I don't know, but I don't know.
And then, but also no, for real, and that's
Depression era
important.
education.
Sorry, I personally didn't have a relationship with his teacher, so that's why.
But, no, and it's important to understand that thing. So I tell my mom all the time, like she'd be like, oh, your grandfather, he's doing X, Y, Z, and I got to tell her, he was a sharecropper. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's overcoming a lot, and similar to your teacher, I'm sure. But it's crazy because you're almost 30 and you're still to this day, you still don't understand why she did that. Meanwhile, we have you guys here saying like you're explaining to your students, this is what you can do with ChatGPT. This is what you can do with X, Y, Z, and you're explaining why.
Don't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah, and it's not, because I said so.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
And
go ahead.
sorry,
No,
just
go ahead.
to layer on super quickly, is that even as a teacher and you're incorporating the technology that they clearly have access to, right? Like you can't ignore it. As a teacher, you have to understand what you're actually assessing and what skill is the demonstration that the student has, mastered the skill and you can move on to something else. Meaning, they can easily write a 5-paragraph essay in ChatGPT, but as a teacher, I need to understand like what skill do I need them to demonstrate in the 5-paragraph essay in my pie in the sky dream school that they're writing, right? So maybe it's all that pre-work because a 5-paragraph essay is just a product of the 6-week long learning that you did. So what's the pre-work that I've given, in order for them to demonstrate, maybe some sort of like deeper thematic understanding. Maybe I taught them, allegory and they have to demonstrate to me how they understand allegory. And maybe their close reading annotations demonstrate it, and maybe their fishbowl discussion about the greater essential questions from the story demonstrated it, right? So it's all the little assessments and touch points you have along the way that you can use to see if they've actually learned the skill, and then that summative assessment is just a product of that. So if I didn't do that, then I'm really giving my students a disservice if I'm allowing ChatGPT to enter that space at that point if they haven't demonstrated to me that they've already understood the skill before they use that technology.
Right. Because I think that's how you essentially become a zombie to it, right?
Exactly.
You can't function
It's critical
without it.
thinking. There's critical thinking that they need to understand how to do.
I was gonna
Because
say-
how many podcasts do you listen to where they clearly do not understand how to formulate a proper argument?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like-
somebody
like, oh.
stole that. That's why I liked, coming up on Jimmy Neutron. There was an episode where they get to choose, like they get to choose what skill they wanted to get from the other person's brain, right? Like the
I
ability
know
to learn
what
how
you're
to
talking about,
whistle or to snap your fingers and things like that. And so I think about that episode when we talk about this, because it's like they got it too early, and so now it's like a skill has been stolen from you. You know, because now you don't know how to critically think. You don't know what a subject or a predicate is. You don't even know how to use an adjective properly, or the difference between that and an adverb, because these things that did it for you before you found out how to do it yourself. And that affects, like, I guess, not only how you are as a student, but your self-esteem and your confidence. And because now you feel without your phone,
you can't function.
You don't have your brain. you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, and it comes down to what we see in a lot of like modern day examples, where you see those like younger kids in your family, and they literally type and spell things with the audio, the speak to text, and I'm like, I find that mind-boggling, because I'm like, I just realized you really don't have to know how to spell. You can straight up just be like, hey, tell them this, and it's gonna tell you that. You know what I mean? So I think going back to what you said too, and going back to what you said as well. So Jayna spoke on before on the need for like adaptation and kind of making sure you're adapting with the times. And you kind of take it further, because also it's a matter of adapting how you're ensuring they're doing that critical thinking. When we were in school, maybe the critical thinking was critically thinking of how I'm gonna organize this essay and exactly what paragraph each paragraph will be, how I'm gonna organize the structure of it, whatever. That's gone now. Okay, fine, because we have ChatGPT, we have autocorrect. I don't have to think about spelling either. But the critical thinking of, okay, well, I'm taking a specific like concept or a specific terminology, like a specific thing from this overarching unit that I'm gonna make sure you have to deep dive into, submit that to me. And yeah, you use AI if you want, but AI is not gonna give the answer that I'm looking for. So like, I'm not asking for a generic thing that AI can be like,
wanna see
boom,
what you
here you
know.
go. This is specifically tailored to my classroom. So AI, unless he's in my class somehow, they're not gonna know. So and that's very important. That's
Only
huge.
AI we was rocking with was on the 6s. You
Allen
heard?
Iverson. That's how. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm gonna be mindful of your time. I know we have to go. But I just want to end this with some closing reflections and ask you just some things that, because I always want our audience to be able to take something away. If it's a word of advice or something where they're like, I wish that too. So I'm gonna just ask you that, and I want you both to answer it. But given that you're teachers now, we're reflecting on the past and how our past as students bridge the gap to, make us teachers. What do you wish your teachers understood about you? If you could just take a minute, just think like, what do you wish your teachers understood about me? And like for me, I wish that they understood that I'm curious and I ask a lot of questions. And then my curiosity wasn't an affront to their authority, but rather just because you're an authoritative figure, I'm respecting that by coming to you and asking you a question. And just understand, even if you don't know it, or even if it might offend you, that's not my intention. I'm just a kid that knows less than you and wants to learn. Jay, what
I
about
can
you?
go next. I think
What do you wish they understood about you?
I think the one thing that I wish my teachers understood about me, especially, and this goes from beyond K through 12, even in college, I remember having to check a teacher about this, but I wish some teachers understood that, so I was born with like a biological stutter, and like people think that most stutters.
Turn the mic. There you go.
I was born with a biological stutter. Most people just think that like anyone who has a stutter is just like a random stutter. It's not like an actual thing. So I always hated in school the assumption from teachers that I'm like scared to public speak or nervous or shy because I had a stutter, and then they come speak to me and I'm like, I'm not nervous. Like, I'm confident in my work. I have a stutter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also just other scenarios where like, when I was younger and it was worse, I would like use different words because I knew I wouldn't stutter on it. But kind of like then being called down the middle of class that like, maybe my grammar wasn't right or something like that. Things like that really bothered me because I was already scared to talk. And then you just put on blast that I don't talk right. And I was like, okay, thank you for not understanding that I'm trying to get over it.
See if I
And
participate tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. See me next year because I'm not talking until the 7th grade. Like, you know what I mean? So I just wish my teachers back then had a better understanding that, like, sometimes you don't know exactly what goes on in these students' minds, but sometimes it's not a lack of laziness or a lack of confidence. It's just a matter of they've got other things going on that you don't know about. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't assume I'm just like nervous or like shy or like
it wasn't,
don't want to talk.
It wasn't until
like-
the end of the year where they were like, "Oh, you're gifted."
Yeah, they're like, oh, you are, you do know what we're talking about. Yeah, I have straight A's. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I know what we're
I
talking
guess
about.
I can
yeah?
start believing that now. Thank
Yeah.
you, teacher.
Yeah.
I have your permission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And then that kind of candor is what would land me in the principal's office.
Yeah. You see, I had to stutter. I wouldn't have even responded. I was just been,
Can't
That's exactly. I'd have like, and now I'm over here like, yeah, running a podcast and hosting like live events. You would never know. But.
Yep. So something you wish your teachers understood about you.
Thinking back, I mean, I wish they understood that I wanted to be seen, I wanted to be heard, and I wanted to feel valued. I wanted to be affirmed, right? Like as a young Black girl, right, going to a public school, I feel like there are a lot of assumptions made about you and who you are, your capabilities.
Off the bat.
Right? And I wish a lot of them would not have leaned into a lot of those assumptions, because then I felt like there would have been many more opportunities for me to be seen, for me to be heard as a person, and not just seen based on these ideas or assumptions or biases that they developed based on my outward appearance, based on where I went to school, and based on where I lived. So I wish they would have, done some of that work and kind of like elevated students, or elevated me as an individual student, right, as a whole human being. So that's what I wish they would have understood.
Yeah, word. Understood.
Wow. Okay. This is actually making me think of a conversation we were having yesterday. And I had sent an email yesterday, and I actually asked Jayna, I was like, did that email come off a little aggressive? I would love some feedback.
Ooh, yeah.
On
Did
the
I code
email,
switch enough? Uh-huh.
Well, it's making me think back to the sort of like the ripple effects of childhood. Right. And how even the things that you had to do, or the survival instincts you had to learn, can transcend from childhood into adulthood. And thinking about what I wish my teachers understood about me is how much energy it took to be deemed acceptable, and to not be seen as aggressive, or to be seen as sort of like a negative stereotype. And when you're in spaces where your classmates don't look like you, your teachers don't look like you, and you learn very quickly, the consequences, right, of being the only one. Even as a child, what does it mean to be a representative? So I wish my teachers, and I give them a little bit of grace, like they're doing the best they can in the context that they grew up in.
Right. 100%.
And if I'm the educator that I was now, right, giving advice to another educator, I would challenge them to say, in what ways are your students conforming to you, rather than them growing into themselves? And I think that's advice I would give the teachers that I grew up with.
I appreciate that. That was dope. And we're going to get another one because she just gave me the title of this video clip. I love that. We got human chat GPT.
I'm like embarrassed now. They gave 2 amazing answers. I'm like, I have a stutter, and you guys said no.
No. You used the stutter, man. That was good. That was good. Because, this, but like I also had a stutter coming up. And so I did feel a lot of that. My grandfather spent a lot of time, and just him being raised in the South, you pick up on that mush mouthiness sometimes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those kind of impediments, like they affect your confidence and just your daily comings and going. Not just as a student, but as a person. I just want to make this last point. You said you wish that they let you know you were enough. You said you wish that they saw you for who you are, and that's not just true for you, but that's true for so many of us.
A lot of us.
And people. And it causes me to reflect when people compliment me on like, oh, well, you're such a people person, and oh, you're like you get tired of people. Like I never would have thought, and it makes me think, well, why is that? And so I call back to my childhood, And I'm the type of person where, like, no matter what happens, I'm like, I'm gonna be all right. I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah.
So I tend to overlook the effects of certain things that are for other people hindrances. You know, what I might not find to be a hindrance, but that doesn't mean that because I didn't have the same challenge you had that it wasn't challenging for me, right? And so I think about it and it's like, yeah, you know, especially as being the only black kid in my K-8 experience and dealing with not even the malicious intent of people, but sometimes just ignorance or lack of consideration and how it would affect me. But what helped me is the fact that, like, every day my mother was just giving me positive affirmations, you know what I mean? You're above and not beneath, you're head and not to tail, you're a leader, you're special, you're great. And as a kid, I was so used to it, I didn't understand the profundity of her doing that. And she needed to do that 3 times, 4 times a day, because of not only, you know, just being a young kid, father's not as present as he should be, but the stuff that I deal with when she's not around is crazy, you know, and we spend most of our time as a student in school. So, like, when we're dealing with lack of consideration or implicit or explicit biases and, you know, insecurities for 8 hours a day, and we're 4, 5, 6, 7, it can weigh on you. So that, you know, it's really important to be, you know, I guess, you know, shout out to the fellows in a system, in a cohort of people who can support you. It's very important to have mentorships or somebody that can just reach out and be like, hey, man, I see you. So, you know, I just want to say shout out to y'all for being
Absolutely.
that. Shout out to that. Let's one more time. One more time. Absolutely. I love that we got a chance to have this talk. I wish we had another hour and a half.
For real.
But, you know, we actually got real jobs. So
yeah. I forgot that this is a work stream of my larger work stream.
Yeah. But we're trying to change it, so all we have to do is podcasting 24/7. So, you know, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. You know, maybe we got to holler at the chancellor and see what we can do about this little job description, man.
Absolutely.
But I want to thank you guys for being here today. Jay, you got anything you
No,
want to say?
I honestly thank you both for being here. I think what both you shared was absolutely important and is absolutely something that, like, everyone needs to hear. And I also appreciate the energy that you both brought. I felt very comfortable. I mean, technically this is my work stream, so I do this more than you guys, but I feel like you made me comfortable. So I definitely appreciate that. And also just the way, again, like the way both of you speak so soft-spoken and so, like, gracefully just made me feel comfortable. So definitely appreciate having you two lovely ladies here. We'd probably have you back sometime in the near future if you ladies are willing. So
we're definitely because we're definitely planning on making this bigger and better. So if you guys would love to come back, we'd love to have you. Even if not guest, maybe as guest hosts.
Exactly. No, absolutely. Yeah. And there's always opportunity in the future. You know what I'm saying?
We got a lot of ideas. We ain't saying them all here on camera.
Exactly.
You know? But we got a lot going on. But thank you so much, man. We have Jayna Smith. We got Alyssa Jones in the building. My name is Derrell Meyers. Go ahead and tell them who you are.
My name is Jacob Ureña.
And this is Education Unfiltered, where real education meets honest conversation. We want to hear from you. Please write us in the comments. Tell us what this podcast did for you, if it did anything, what the clip did for you. And we want to know from you, what is something you wish your teachers understood about you as a student? What is something you wish your teachers understood about you as a student? We want to hear from you. Check us in the comments. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram. Thank you so much. This is Education Unfiltered. We'll check y'all later. Peace.